Well, we're off and running. Sweet. Jack Bark.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Passion
Thanks for
Project.
having me.
Dude, I'm so stoked to have you here. Super rad.
Yeah.
Super, super fun. What's neat, and we just had a quick chat out in the parking lot, but like, I've known you for a long time. And I love watching how people evolve. Like, I've known you since you were a little guy, and we'll get through the whole story. But like, to see what you've accomplished and where you are today, and you have this, well, who did I just meet out in your car?
New baby. Little Lockie.
Little Lockie, little girl. Named after?
Lockie Lansdowne.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's so fun. And if people don't know that name, we're going to talk about prone paddling, the waterman lifestyle, firefighting, this incredible waterman family that you've been a part of, which is how I've known you for all this time, the middle of the prone paddling universe, building boards, raising chickens,
all of it.
Bark Family Farms.
Yeah.
Some really just cool stuff. But the storyline of your life is really amazing because you grew up with this family that I've known through this paddleboard world that I fell into a long time ago. But for anybody's sake, Jack, how old are you now?
32 now.
You're 32. So what year were you born?
94.
94. Okay, so I did my first classic in 96.
Okay.
And I probably met your dad. I took a couple years off, got a board from him in 2000. And around that, and that's when I started going full time. And that's when I remember probably around that time I used to see you on the boat because you were always on your dad's escort boat, right?
Yeah. And then eventually, probably 10 years old, he gave us the reins on the 13-foot whaler, and we'd stock up on candy and just buzz around the whole race.
It's so
probably
great.
waking people out, you know.
Well,
but
I remember Shane Lincoln, Scott Lincoln's son, and like you guys, different boats, same thing. His son would come up and give me shit. If I was close to your dad, you guys would come by, buzz by. I don't remember if it was in the 13 or what, but like I've known you since you were that age.
Yeah.
And so what's really fun is I've been around like long enough and along the ride to watch you go from this kid eating candy in the 13-foot whaler, buzzing around, to winning the Catalina Classic, setting the record, and all this other incredible adventure stuff you've done. So we're just going to talk story because what you do and how you've done it is rad. But like, I love the backstory. Like, how did you end up in this place? And I know enough that I think the story is just insane with your parents and just the whole lifestyle, this waterman lifestyle. Like, you've grown up surrounded by water and surrounded by rad people. So
yeah.
Is that cool?
Sounds good.
So, all right, you were born in 94. I don't think you've gone too far. So talk about where you have lived and we'll just go from there. Like, where'd you
I live like less than a mile than where I was raised, pretty much.
And where's that?
In Torrance.
You're in Torrance.
Yeah.
Got it. And you were raised where?
In Torrance.
Oh, I always thought you're not up on the hill?
We grew up in Torrance till I was probably 6, and then moved to PV. We lived there. And then when I moved out of the house at 26, moved back down to Torrance with my buddy, lived with him. And then when I got married, lived out Segundo with Katie. And then we moved to Torrance 5 years ago.
Got it. So full circle.
Yeah, full circle.
Boomerang.
Right down the street pretty much.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I always say PV, I didn't know anything about Palos Verdes until I started doing prone paddling. And I don't think there's been a single time that I've been up on that hill that I haven't gotten lost driving around.
Yeah.
Like it is a foreign planet to me trying to get around up there.
There's no straight roads.
But right. But it's an incredible center of the universe of prone paddling in Southern California. Mm-hmm. And from there north, goes back a long time, and we'll get into it. So let's talk about your family and growing up in Torrance, PV, in and around the water. Talk about your mom and dad and like how did they end up in the Torrance, PV area?
They both grew up in that area.
They did too.
Yeah, so they grew up in that area. My dad actually met my mom. He shaped a board for my mom's brother, and then it was Cinco de Mayo, and everywhere was crowded. So after windsurfing, him and his buddy went to an Italian restaurant to eat after windsurfing, and my mom was working there. And they started talking and realized he's like, oh, I shaped a board for your brother. I would have given it to him for free if I knew, you were his sister. And that's how they met. Wow. And so they both in the area.
And dad I didn't know the windsurfing part of Joe Bark.
Big windsurfing, yeah.
Really?
Because that was back, during that time frame when windsurfing was big.
80s?
And yes.
Early
like
70s, probably 70s.
80s.
Because I think your dad's about 10 years older than me. Mm-hmm. So he's 65, 66 right now, right in there?
60.
No. He's older than that. I don't know.
Older. 64 maybe?
Yeah, I think he's got to be right in there.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that would have been the early days of windsurfing. Mm-hmm. I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, I mean,
just
it was
one more thing that he does.
Another thing, right? Yeah, all the old photos, all these big windsurfing boards, and that was back when they would go down to Mexico to all the point breaks in Baja, and they would wait all morning when it was glassy for the wind to come up, and they windsurf the point breaks instead of surfing. Totally opposite what you would do now if you went down there to surf.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's interesting because growing up here, if all you do is ride a shortboard and it gets windy every afternoon at noon, like you're going to be out of luck. So some of the stuff that you've done or you do takes advantage of the wind and paddling sports. But I didn't know he's into that. Oh, that's super interesting because that was like a lot of those guys, Laird and all those guys got super into the wind before some of the prone paddling stuff that ended up becoming a big part of their lives. So, okay. And I know that your dad was working at restaurants and doing all that stuff. So, okay. So mom, dad both grew up in that area. I had Buddy Bond in here recently.
Oh, cool.
Big lifeguard for many, many, many years. And, one of the two guys that brought back the Catalina Classic, but he talked about your grandpa. Was your grandpa also there, like a swim coach or something?
Yeah, he taught at Maricosta.
No way.
And coached water polo and taught driver's ed. And it's funny, man. There's so many people I'll meet and they're like, oh, your grandfather taught me to drive. And I've heard some stories. They're like, yeah, we'd throw a couple longboards in the car and drive to Malibu for practice and surf and drive back. And he'd sign us off.
All right. So you can kind of see the thread of like this cool flow. Because you do have one of the coolest families. Well, growing up there, well, let's talk a little bit about mom and dad. So we talked about windsurfing and they meet at the restaurant. What else was dad doing? Because I think all of this leads to the life that you grew up doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So they actually lived in Hawaii for a couple years when he was younger, finished high school, and he wanted to go back to Hawaii and surf. So he moved back to Hawaii with some buddies, and that's when he started shaping. Just because, boards are expensive and you can save some money shaping them yourself. So he lived there, surfed, learned how to surf switch because he wanted to surf front side
at Waimea
and up pipe. So he actually learned how to surf switch, and now if he gets up without thinking, he gets up goofy.
Really?
But he's a regular naturally.
All right. So All right. One more example of why your family is just incredible water people.
Yeah.
I did not know that about your dad either. That's incredible. We also just had Dan Mann in here who also only surfs switch.
Oh, really?
He never goes back to it. He's always full switch.
Yeah. So that was my dad's reasoning. Was just he wanted to be front side on heavy waves.
Wow.
But yeah, he moved back from Hawaii, and then he was a fireman. But to get to that point, he was testing everywhere, shaping boards, doing construction, and then became a firefighter with Redondo Beach. And my mom was a school teacher, so American dream right there.
Yeah.
And that was when we were living in Torrance before we moved up to PV. When we were all the four of us were really young.
Yeah, and you're one of four.
Yeah.
Where do you fall in line with your siblings?
I have an older sister, Gemma, myself, younger brother, Sam, and then youngest, Emily.
And you're all water people.
Yeah.
In different ways, but pretty amazing. But again, I think that's where we're going. So growing up with the four of you, you're in that area. You've got generations of water between grandpa and dad and mom. What was growing up like? Like, what was dad? Is he dragging you guys to all the stuff that he's doing? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, it was always in the water. My dad was working a ton with the fire department and then with shaping boards. Like, he was always busy. And then when there was fishing or surfing or paddling, he was doing all that too. But I remember it was all the time, dad coming home in the morning and picking us up and we're going surfing. Before school going, I got these killer photos with my dad with 50-pound sea bass because the sea bass were biting. And so 3 a.m, we're out there catching squid, catching sea bass, and then he takes me to school. And it was just always doing something. I feel like I grew up at the beach or on the boat outside, which is awesome. We all did.
That's an atypical, like that for any of us that have spent our lives on the water. Like, I wish I could have done that with my parents or provided that to my kids. Cause that's all time. Like that, and it feels kind of old school. Like that feels like what the waterman lifestyle was like in the 50s and 40s, like before kind of modern, dynamics, I
think a big part of it too was just helping my mom out because me and my brother were just probably crazy, causing problems at home. So it was like, hey, we're going, you're coming along on the boat. We're going on the cliffs to go dive in. You're going to go paddle, but it leads into when I first started paddling and like tandem surfing with my dad, maybe we started so young or whatever, but like I didn't like paddling in the beginning because it was, when he was done with the day shaping, he'd come pick us up and we'd go paddle 2 miles out to the Seal Rock and back. And it was cold and windy and like, it almost felt like a punishment, but he was just getting us out there probably just to give my mom a break.
Amazing. And I think everybody that knows Joe Bark or his experience in like, because he'd be at the shaping bay at, I don't know, 4 a.m, shape, then go work. And then like, does the guy ever sleep? Because he was as productive doing as many things. You're the same, but like the number of things that he would do.
It's crazy.
Because so he'd be shaping and working an overnight shift and then coming home, grabbing you guys, going to dive, fish, surf, paddle, whatever.
He was nonstop. I mean, if he was off the day before work, he would go into the shop and shape 2 or 3 boards before going to the fire station at 7 or 8 o'clock. And then, when he would get off a couple of days later, come home and, hey, I'm taking the kids, we're going to the beach, we're going to the boat, and then shape a board at night, and then, back to work the next day. So
Rad.
I remember we were always on the go. We weren't a family that hung at home a lot. It was just, we were always outside or doing something, or if he was working, we were visiting him at the fire station.
That's so cool. And if anybody knows Joe, like salt of the earth, one of the best guys ever, super cool. He was just down here working with the open water folks, and they're like, who's this guy helping us out? Oh, that's Joe, because he'll just get in the mix, right?
Yeah, totally.
It kind of seems like, well, let me ask you a question. Of the 4 kids, were you all kind of into it? Was everybody going along to do this stuff? Like it was like, come on kids, we're going, or was it like you and your brother, or like what was the story?
It was all of us. Yeah. I mean, as we all got old enough to do it, we would all, he'd take us all down to the cliffs, and then he'd go catch a couple waves, come back in, swap kids, and we'd all go catch some waves, tandem surfing. I mean, he'd take us all on a paddle, and it's these boards. I saw one the other day at a race. Somehow they're still around 20 years later. He built us these 12-foot stock boards, but because we were so small, they're like an unlimited. They're probably 14 inches wide, and they have a rudder, and they look like an unlimited, but they're 12 feet long, and they're still in circulation too. They've just been passed around. I saw one at the kids race at the South Bay Paddle that the board riders were putting on last week. So he would take us all down, and he'd take turns pushing us because we're paddling so slow, and he would get his Catalina training like that, doing a 5-miler or 2-miler with us and pushing us the whole way.
God love him. That's so cool.
Yeah.
What a fun story. And did you always like it? You mentioned you didn't really love the paddling part, but like, were you guys all fired up? Like, let's go on the boat, let's go to the island, let's go fish. Like, you guys were doing so many things. Like, pretty fired up on it.
Yeah,
Everybody was.
I think so. Totally. I mean, we loved going to Catalina. We would just go there and be barefoot for 2 days before the classic, causing my dad probably stress because we're running around, catching lizards. But we loved it. Growing up in the boat was so cool. We just anchor up and go swimming and snorkeling, paddling. Well, we always loved it, but I think at that young age, like, the end of the day, my dad's like, hey, we're going out, and you're like, it's windy and shop, afternoon shop in Southern California, and you're cold, but like, that was like, hey, we're getting the energy out, we're doing that.
Got it.
And I remember during junior lifeguards, like, we'd be done for the day, and then he'd be like, hey, he want to get a workout, and he'd take us and we'd go do 10 more buoy swims, and we're like, what are we doing?
Dude, hey, he created some very capable water people.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, definitely.
All this time, you have school, and you mentioned junior guards. Were you doing, like, it sounds like you were go. Did you guys play like traditional sports at all, or were you like pure water? Yeah,
we did. I did swim team in high school. I played soccer for a long time until high school, and my knees kind of weren't healthy enough to still, But yeah, we did, we did traditional stuff as well, but I feel like the water stuff was always kind of like taken priority. And then especially as we got older, once I got to high school, that's when I kind of came into my own and really started enjoying the paddling. And that's when I was like, I'm going to do swim team because it's going to help my paddling and surfing. So kind of that transition, like middle school to high school kind of years, was when I kind of was like, all right, we're done with the sports, and
pure water.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us did that. When the parents said, okay, you don't have to anymore. Okay, I'm going pure surf, whatever.
Yeah.
Were you guys, I know there's a lot of adventure in the family, just what you talked about on a daily basis, but I know Hawaii, you mentioned, was big for your dad. Like, were you guys getting to the islands and stuff as a family at all, or?
Not really. No? We never traveled too much just because there's 4 of us and my dad was busy. And like we were talking about earlier, like 4 kids.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Now having 1, I can't imagine traveling to Hawaii with 4. But we were always doing stuff around. Like Catalina was our big adventure. And that was so cool. We would go over there for the Rock to Rock and for the Classic and just be buzzing around the whaler, growing up on the boat, like that was kind of the big adventure for us. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So you go to which high school? Where did you go?
I went to PV High.
PV High.
Yep.
When you're going to high school, your swim team, did you have a plan or a thought like what you wanted to do? We'll get back to all the prone and all that stuff because that's interwoven in your whole life. But were you like, I'm going to go to college. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be like, do you have any idea? Were you like, I just want to surf, paddle, whatever?
Kind of just doing that. I didn't graduate high school with a plan. I knew I was going to go to college. It kind of just seemed like that was the the trajectory, but actually never want to be a fireman. Like my dad never pushed on me. You know, I knew he loved it and everything, but he wasn't the kind of fireman who came home, was like, let's go, let me show you what I did or this and that. Like he was just busy. He'd come home from work and go work or go surf and take us. So I didn't grow up with this, like, I want to do what my dad's doing. I saw him as a hero and loved what he did, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I went to Cal State Dominguez Hills and did 6.5 years there, got my degree in geography.
Really? Oh, wow.
And I didn't know it's so funny. I was in a class like 2 years into my upper education classes, and I was in a geology class, and I thought I was a geology major. And my teacher was like, it shows you're a geography major. And I'm like, I don't really know which one I'm doing. I thought they just coincided, and I just checked a box because I needed some degree to do. But I loved that. School was great. I took a semester off to go to Australia, hung with Zeb Walsh, and that was kind of when the adventure paddling all really started. But still during that time, I was lifeguarding for the LA County and working at Trader Joe's and just kind of seeing, you're still young. I didn't know what I wanted to do afterwards.
Got it. How long did you lifeguard?
7 years, seven summers.
And you did junior guards. So you grew up in that. Did all four of you go through the junior guard program?
Yeah, all four of us did that. That was kind of like, hey, we're not going to let you guys go to the beach on your own with your friends until you get to like the A level. And then by then we were loving it. And so I did the A's, and then I did one-year cadets as well, which was like that transition where like, hey, if you think you want to be a lifeguard, this is that next step when you're 17 years old before you can apply.
Yeah. So then you get in, 7 years as an active guard. Where, for state or?
For LA County.
For LA County.
Yeah.
All right. So you're LA County through and through and through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Still are. And okay. And then, so did you start to, was it a natural progression for you to go, I think I want to keep going on this like first responder-y type, like go follow the firefighter side, like, or what happened? When did that trigger?
Actually, when I graduated Cal State Dominguez, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, I'm out of college, right? Like I'm moving out of the house, I'm out of college, I got to figure something out. And my brother was going to Cal Maritime up in San Francisco. And I was like, dude, working on boats, like that sounds pretty cool. And I actually applied up there. But in that like 4 years he was there, that school just got super popular. And just because there was all these, studies and reports coming out of the incredible jobs you get out of there and making money. And I didn't get in. I was like, how did I not get in? I got a lifeguarding background. I've been driving boats since I was 10 with my dad, like all this experience. And then that's when I was like, shoot, well, maybe I'll go talk to my dad and some of his fire buddies and see like if that's a route. Because I loved lifeguarding. I loved, being able to do that type of work. But it had never, still hadn't clicked in all those years.
Got it. Well, Sam, your brother, he works on the super tankers, right? Is that what he's doing?
Yep. He'll disappear for 4 months.
Amazing.
And he'll go, like, oh, I'm in Saipan, and then we're going to China, and he's on those cargo ships, and then he can pick up all sorts of work. But he loves it. He's out.
Amazing.
Out in the ocean every day.
Well, let me ask you this. So between your dad being a firefighter and in that world, and a full waterman, boats, windsurfing, surfing, paddling, again, we'll get back to that, and you growing up in the junior guard program and around, like, it sounds like you must have grown up with this incredible, like, assemblage of men or watermen, people around you at like your dad's like level, right?
Yeah.
Age. Like, I don't know my question. It seems like you grew up with a bunch of like super influential people that were just hanging around because he's shaping boards, he's doing all this stuff. Is that the way it was?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that kind of helped influence me and mature me and make me who I am now, because to go back to paddling, I guess, when I was younger, at these races, like I remember being in the banding house on Catalina and like the morning of the race, in the dark, and it's like, you got Brian Rochlow, you got Keone Watson, Ryan Addison, Kyle Daniels. Like these guys are sunscreening up and getting ready. And like, these are like my heroes. Like they're not professional athletes, like a pro surfer on tour or whatever, but like, these are the guys who I was like, I want to be like that guy, And I was just hanging around those guys at a young age. And then as I started doing it more and getting into it, paddling was still such a, like, you were involved at the time, but there weren't a lot of young people paddling. And so as I started paddling more, it wasn't like I was paddling with my friends. I was going out with my dad and hanging with his buddies. And so I was hanging around this older crew of adults. And I think that was like, I had this friend base of just these people who live life and were influencing me and set me on the right path. And I think that helped me become who I am today for sure.
Well, I mean, those names, pretty legit. I mean, some of the best watermen in the world, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, they're hanging out with you and with your dad. Like, I I've known your dad for a long time, and Jimmy Terrell, and during the peak of the stand-up movement, your dad and Jimmy were like celebrities.
Yeah.
Not that he's not already, but like, Jamie Mitchell would come stay here for a month with them and train, and like all of a sudden you're hanging around like, God, how did this happen? I'm hanging around all these incredible people.
Yeah.
And that's going to, like, proximity is power, right? That's going to like level you up.
Totally.
Just from energy, or like anytime I talk to somebody like I've looked up to a long time, like you get this little extra pride and you're like a little extra fire. Like like you said, I want to be like that.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Amazing.
And then you see what they're doing, and those guys are all lifeguards, surfers, like they're these professions, and they live these lifestyles. And yeah, you're like, that's what I got to do to be there. So,
Rad.
yeah.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this prone paddling thing, because you mentioned Dad making you custom boards when you were young. So it sounds like you grew up without a choice. Yeah. Not that it's a bad choice, but like you're going paddling, you're going fishing, you're going whatever with Dad. Like,
yeah.
All right, let's go. But you got exposed to it super early. Mm-hmm. And again, and you're watching it. So let me ask you this. Your dad has done the classic. Let's go back a minute. Let's go back two steps. Catalina Island.
Yeah.
When you're growing up in PV, you're looking at that island every day.
Yeah.
And when you have a dad like Joe that's making boards for all these guys that you've named, and they're paddling in the channel because your dad started doing it 10 years before you were born, it's part of your life.
Yeah.
Tell me about Catalina Island in your family. You've already talked about going out there and being on the boat, and you've mentioned a little bit about the classic, and we'll get there in a second. But tell me about like staring at that island, that body of water, because you've crossed it at more than 99.99% of humanity. What's it like to you? What's that island mean to you?
Yeah, well, it's kind of the cliche what they say, like it's like you look across there and you grow up in Southern California, and like that's our island across the channel. And so to take it back, I guess, being on the beach for the Catalina Classic finish every year from, all this wouldn't be possible with my mom. She would drag all 4 kids to the beach to watch my dad finish. And she was such a big supporter of all that. But being on the beach for 10 or so years and watching everyone come in, you don't even get a grasp of how big that channel is and what these guys are doing, still like to paddle that channel. And then I think when I first got to go out there, I remember my dad being like, hey, you're going to come out this year. And I remember in my head thinking it was this little private island, and we go over there and it's just taking the boat all the way across. You're like, this is a long way, and then you see all these guys paddling back. And, as a kid, it's just like, that's a huge body of water. And now that I've paddled across it a bunch, it's less daunting, but still, I'll go over fishing and I'll be like, man, I can't believe we paddle this every summer, because it's still a long way, and you get bad conditions and you're slogging across to go tuna fishing and you're like, this is brutal. Come August, we have to paddle back.
Yeah.
So to grow up and see that every day, it's kind of one of those natural progressions. Like I always knew, not as much that the island was there that I wanted to paddle back, but I wanted to do it because my dad and all his friends were doing it. And it's just like, that's what I wanted to be a part of.
Rad. I love that. And we'll talk about it. And you've run it, crisscrossed it. I mean, you know that island well. So let's talk about the classic. So we've talked a fair bit about it. For anybody that doesn't know, that isn't a full prone paddling nerd, but like, what's the Catalina Classic and why is it so important?
Yeah. So it's a 32-mile paddle race from Catalina Island to Manhattan Beach. This will be the 49th year it's running, and it was started, back by these legendary lifeguards, surfer, watermen, and it's the oldest, longest running paddle race there is. So it ends in Manhattan Beach, which is kind of epicenter, historic, paddling, lifeguarding epicenter, I feel like, in Southern California. And you look at the names of these guys who've just, not even, I wouldn't say winning the race, but just completing it is such an accomplishment. And you look at the people who have done it, it's just, there's legends all across the board, all through these years. So if you're a paddleboarder, a prone paddleboarder, you look at that race and there's no way you don't want to check that off the list, for sure,
Yeah. Let me ask a question. I'm totally changing it real quick.
Yeah.
If somebody lives in Southern California and they've looked at that island like you have and I have, and they've surfed their whole life or whatever, should they do that? Should everybody paddle that channel?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's as challenging as it is for a surfer, someone who's grown up in the ocean. It's totally doable. It's a hard accomplishment, but it's more doable than I would say you think. And you've crossed that channel on multiple crafts, right? Like you can make it as hard or as simple as you want. If you want to go across and do in a group paddle, it's doable. And if you want to go out there and race and try to win, it's you got to put more time in, but it's doable as well.
Yeah, I I talk about it a lot. I just think that crossing that channel at least once, like, changes your whole viewpoint of that body of water. Like you said, anybody that's gone out there, it's a long friggin' slog across no matter what you're on. And so to paddle it back, I just think that I always say, like, you'll never look at it the same way once you've paddled
100%.
it. And I love getting young guns to do it. And certainly you've done a lot of that. You've, I think, inspired a lot of younger guys to get out and gals to get out and do it. Your whole family has. Okay, so back to the classic. So your dad started doing it in the 80s because there was a break in the 60s, 70s, and the early 80s. It came back, and your dad did it. How many times has Joe done it? Do you know?
38.
38.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's so incredible. Good for him.
Yeah. And most of those years, he won twice. Most of those years were with 4 kids from, newborns up to going through college, where I'm sure there's years where he might have only got 30, 40 miles training with work and everything else going on, and he was still out there doing it,
Yeah.
And that's the crazy part, because I've done a couple off the couch.
They hurt.
And they hurt.
So
to do back-to-backs off the couch like that when he was just, busy working, raising kids is, that's an accomplishment.
And he's usually, no matter what, he's always got a smile. He's always stoking everybody out. And he's so good. He's such a good, what a great role model. I mean, it seems like you and probably your siblings, haven't fallen far off that tree with your parents. Especially you with following in a lot of the footsteps, board building, we'll get there, firefighting, all, how cool is this that you're both of you and Emily, and we'll talk about Emily too, all have your names on the perpetual Catalina Classic trophy.
Yeah.
Dude, how cool is that?
Neat. Yeah,
that's
very
amazing.
Cool.
Good for you guys. So you start paddling young. When did it go from paddling, because dad's dragging you out there, to going, when did it switch and you're like, I want to do that channel, or I want to do the classic, or did you not have a choice?
I don't know if I ever had that choice, really. I mean, first time we did the rock to rock as a relay with Shane Lincoln and a couple of my cousins, and that was just, my dad was like, hey, we're gonna get the kids to cross the channel. And then, a couple years relay turned into doing the rock to rock by myself. And then after the rock to rock a couple years, it's like, well, it's 10 more to do the classic. And then just all of a sudden doing the classic.
Yeah. So for you, it was like a natural flow.
Yeah.
For us, it was like a huge, oh my God, daunting. You said it earlier. For you, it's just like a natural rite of passage and almost flowed into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super cool. And I think your dad probably made it fun as opposed to daunting.
Totally.
Then, right?
Yeah. Doing the relays with our cousins and friends was just such a cool way to experience it and feel that accomplishment of paddling across the channel. Yeah. But, not solo, but you get that feel for it. You get to be on the boat when you're not paddling and see how big it is, and you're looking both ways in the middle. It's like, wow. And then you kind of get that yearning to do it solo at some point. And then, you do rock to rock, which is a great way to cross the channel for the first time. And it's a great fun race. My dad started a long time ago to allow people to cross the channel because the classic has a cap and it's, a whole nother 10, 12 miles further.
I think that was 1997 and I did it that year.
Okay. Yeah.
And what's funny is you talked about off the couch. I did the classic in 96 and felt indestructible afterward, and I didn't train very hard. And 97 doing the rock to rock kicked my ass, and I was like, all right, I'll never cross that channel again unprepared.
Yeah.
I learned very quickly.
It'll humble you.
No, God,
for sure.
Terrible.
Yeah.
It's like anything. Don't do, you can do it. It doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So funny. How old were you when you did your first solo crossing? Do you know?
First solo, I don't remember my first rock to rock. I did the classic at 17.
At 17.
I'd maybe done 3 or 4 rock to rocks before then.
So 14-ish, dude, how cool is that?
I think Parker Dunbar, actually, there's a picture of him and my dad. I think he was 13. He did the rock to rock. So I think I was 14 when I did it.
That's
my
so
first
great.
time. Yeah.
I love watching, it's getting younger and younger. You mentioned it was kind of older when, when I was getting into it, younger and younger. And we have more and more young guns coming out to the bend. I know on Molokai, on Outrigger, there's some young guns.
Yeah.
It's so cool to watch. And it's amazing. You look at pro surfers, they're starting at 14, 15 now. You can, super capable
totally.
At 15 years old. I don't think I was, but you and some of these top performers.
Well, looking at these Toe winning the classic at 16, and it's I was, when I did it at 17, I wasn't thinking about winning. I was thinking about surviving to get across.
For sure.
So it's the talent and the mental capability of these kids doing these long distance races is huge.
Yeah. Well, and shoot, down here, I didn't know that there was a sport called prone paddleboarding until I saw my first one down when I was in college in San Diego. I was like, what's that thing on your truck? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And that's what truly kind of introduced me to it. But I knew nothing. I didn't know there was such a thing. There was certainly nothing around here.
Yeah.
So super neat. So you talk about the rock to rock you do a few before the classic. When did you start doing the classic solo? It's the only way to do it, but solo.
Yeah, 17 years old.
17.
I did my first one, and then after that, it was kind of just I'll do it a couple more years, and this will be my 15th year this year, and so I don't want to go chase my dad's 38. You know, he's like, oh, you can do that easy. You started younger than I am, but that's a long way out. You know,
That's amazing.
but just it's one of those races that it's in my backyard, and if I'm healthy and I'm home and I'm not getting recalled to work or something's going on, like I don't want to miss it. Because it's such a fun gathering of all your friends and seeing everyone do it. So definitely want to keep crossing.
Well, talk about, you just mentioned a little bit and we'll jump in on it, like the paddle community. For somebody that doesn't paddle, and we'll just stay kind of prone paddling, like what's the community all about? Because it's pretty magic.
Yeah, it's a small community, which is rad that it's growing now because like we said earlier, I went for a paddle last weekend or a couple weeks ago and saw 30 people I didn't even know. When I was growing up, you'd see a board way off and you knew the color of the board, you knew who it was because there's only so many boards coming through the shop and so many people prone paddling. And now it's booming and huge thanks to you guys down here. You know, Newport's a huge epicenter of paddleboarding. And but the community's, it's killer because there's no money involved. There's no professionalism to it. Everyone's got a day job and everyone is going back to work. I always say the day after the classic, everyone's going back to work. And that's just how it is. And so you look at these people who are paddling 500, 800 miles in a season to train for this race.
I'm looking at one right now.
And then it's not, I wouldn't say it's all for nothing, but it's all just to go and compete with your friends for bragging rights.
That's it.
Because, you know, well, you get a big wave gun too for my dad.
Right. If you win it, you get one. Sure.
Yeah. But there's nothing,
I never earned one of those. Let's just say that.
But there's nothing else to it in terms of this, you know, crazy prestige or like, it's just, people do it because they love it. And the coolest thing is most people the week after Catalina, they're going back and paddling because now it's September and it's beautiful out there.
Yep.
And now you're paddling for fun and just kind of winding down.
Or you're going to go do the Chattajack in Tennessee. Or if you're someone like Jack Bark and his buddies, you're going to go do a 100-miler up and down the coast or any number of things that we'll dig into. So super rad. So you've done 15. We have to talk about 2024. I just want to commend you on this, but let's go back in time a little bit. Can you talk about the record that stood for a whole bunch of years and doesn't stand anymore? There's a new one, but what was the record and what did that mean to all of us in the prone world?
Yeah, Tim Guerra's record, 5:02 and some change. I mean, I don't think anyone, although Max first got really close, he got within a couple minutes one year. Someone else I think was within 5 minutes, but it was just that number was like around the edge of that 5 hour mark.
5 hours,
and
2 minutes.
Stood for 25 years. And so it stood pretty much the whole time I've been alive almost.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just an incredible time. And so when I decided I wanted to, because I raced for 13 years before I won the classic. And me and Lockie battled one year. He got me by 19 seconds on stock boards. Got me by the next year, got me by 10 minutes. And I've come close a couple times, a couple seconds, but I don't think I ever really truly wanted it. And then one year I was like, I want to win this race. And I looked at Tim's record, I did some math and looked at what your averages had to be and did all this. And I was like, there's no way, it's not possible. And I actually wrote that year off. That was 2023. And so I was like, I'm not gonna go for it. And I just off the couched it. And it was hard. It was a hard year. I think it was a pretty rough year and I didn't really train. And then, so that next year is when I decided I'm gonna try again. But I totally didn't have the record in mind because I still thought it was an impossible time, you know, like kind of like the 4 minute mile running. It's just like that 5 hour mark is so fast. And so a group of us went up to the Davenport Downwinder in May of 2024. And we were all talking about Catalina. Oh, you're going to train. Or driving back and kind of, hey, well, if you train, like, and we can train together, I'll train. And so that's when me and Davey Thomas were like, hey, let's we'll do some miles together and kind of see how it goes. And that's kind of just how that year started.
Well, listen, doing the math on that record, and you just said it super well. It's like the 4 minute mile. Like until someone proves they can do it, nobody believes it'll happen. Everything had to come together. I mean, but your training must have been incredible to keep. What kind of pace did you have to keep? Again, I'm nerding out a little bit just because it's incredible what you had to do.
Mm-hmm. I think I held a 6:1 for that race, but
that's like outrigger paddling.
But like you said, everything had to come together. And so when I was doing a lot of paddles, trying to hold 6:1 for an hour or an hour and a half. And some days it wasn't possible because of the current or the wind. And so it was so hard mentally thinking like, if I can't hold it for an hour today training, how am I going to hold it for 5, right? And then also too, like Max first having come the closest to Tim's record, Max has always been that guy ahead of me who's just like, the guy's a beast. You know, he swims 4 days a week. He paddles so fast. And so I'm like, well, if Max can't get it, I can't beat Max. How am I going to get it? So for me that year training, I wanted to train and put myself in a spot where if I didn't win the race, it wasn't because someone worked harder than me. It was just because they were faster. I wanted to go in knowing like I did the most miles. I put the most work in. And I wanted to have those record times in the back of my mind, but I didn't want to get in the race and have it be a bad year and now mentally be like down because I'm not even close to record time when, you know, it's some years it's not possible. It's not every year you can go out and do that. And so I was blessed that my training year, the year I decided to really step up and put myself out there, was also the year we had probably the best conditions I've seen in my 15 years paddling. You know, we had pretty calm conditions across the channel. And then as we hit PV, where usually the wind's blowing offshore or kind of wrapping PV and turning onshore, we got this nice low wind pushing us in. And then we got the current pushing us in, which I've never seen the current and the wind both push straight to Manhattan Pier like that.
Oh, incredible.
So I think my fastest miles actually were after the R10 buoy in the last, 9 miles of the race.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And that was just, I was paddling hard, but the current and the wind. And then we had a super fast field. You know, we had Lance Lira, Max First, Tristan, Alex Merrill, Scott Clott. We had all these guys racing. So anyone could have gone out there, and having that fast field was, I think, also a huge factor in, getting chased the whole way across.
Dude, unbelievable. Well, you also had a bull on your boat. Who did you have on your boat with you yelling at you the whole time? Ryan Addison, who's won it a handful of times as well over the years. And he's a pusher for sure.
I told him, I said, if I'm going to try to go out there and win it, I want you on my boat.
Outstanding.
So, yeah.
How did it feel when you had a pretty good gap that year, if I recall correctly? So at some point you're like, I probably got this, but at what point did you go, I think I might be able to get this record? Was that something that Ryan was sharing with you all along, or were you on, how did that part come in? Because you don't know that until you're at least halfway across, right?
Yeah. The technology is insane now. So I had my Garmin, and I actually set a countdown distance. So I was watching my estimated finishing time, as well as watching my pace, my average speed. So I was kind of had all that in front of me. And I was trying not to look at it too early on. And then I think about 10 miles in, I clicked down and saw, I'm near. I was like that 5:10 range. I'm like, okay, I'm close to the record, but dropping 8 minutes is a lot still. And then got further, and I think maybe around that 15 to 18 mile mark is where Ryan was like, hey, he was telling me, he's like, you got a good gap. The wind is kind of, unless you bonk, you got a good wind. He's like, let's start looking at that record time. And we're kind of watching it, and still getting to the R10, we were kind of on that 5:10 mark. And so it was like possible, but at the same time, I was in my mind, I'm like, if I have this win in the bag, I've never won this race. can I just cruise it in and just enjoy the wind?
Not with Ryan on your boat.
Yeah. And then I think at the R10, Ryan was like, hey, water's moving fast. You're right on 5 hours. Like, if you want it, you got to go for it now. And that's when I just started hammering down. And I feel like I sprinted that whole entire race. Dude. Like, I didn't let up until the buoy pretty much. And, you got Ryan yelling at you from the boat the whole time, which is pretty good motivation.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, for anybody that's not a prone paddler, if you're a runner and you've run a marathon, think of sprinting the last 6 miles. They always say about marathons, right, that it starts at mile 20. Most of us are like dying, like I'm walking, and you're like, no, I got to go hammer down.
Yeah.
Incredible. There's an incredible photo of you at the finish, an iconic one. You standing up and jumped up on your board. Did Tony take that photo?
Tony shot that. Yeah.
Tony Woodard. Incredible photo. How did that feel when you got your first win and you got this elusive record that hadn't been broken in 25 years?
Yeah, it just felt good. It felt good to be done. Every time you cross the channel,
you're like, I got the win, I got the record, but I'm done.
Every time you finish that race, it's whatever place you're in, it's such an accomplishment. And that's why prone paddling is great, because you finish the race, doesn't matter how you did. You see your buddies and you're high five and you're like, that was great to be done. But yeah, to finish with the win and the record was special, because for me, it was the first time I think I told Tony and some guys were filming some stuff before, and I said on camera, like, I want to go out there and I want to win. And I'd never done that, because for me, like, it's a confidence thing. And now you put it out there, and if you don't win, it's like you didn't get what you were saying you wanted to do, right? And so I always kind of hold those cards close. And So to say like, I want to go out there and win Catalina this year with the stacked field we had, and then to have that whole training and then to be able to do it, it was special for me to see like, hey, I set a goal and I worked really, really hard and I was able to accomplish it. And not that I don't think not winning, I was telling myself before, I'm like, even if I don't win or break a record or whatever, like I know I'm going to go out there and race the hardest race with the most work on the back end, and I'm going to feel good about that. But to see it come to fruition with a win was huge.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I think of, and let me ask you a question. I know you know Jamie Mitchell really well. Jamie Mitchell, if you don't know, won the Molokai to Oahu, which we'll talk about in a second, 10 times in a row, which is, can you imagine doing that 10 years in a row, what you did in 2024?
No way.
But he would always say, he's like, I did all the work and I knew I was willing to put myself in the hospital to win. Were you willing to go to that degree to win that one?
Yeah. And especially as I got further, I kind of got in that mindset, like no one's catching me. And I was just, I'm going to sprint till this thing's over. Dude. But you mentioned Jamie. I was going to say with that photo, it's funny because when I grew up, Jamie was like the one professional paddleboarder. You know, he was sponsored by Quicksilver. He was making money, big wave surfing and paddling. And the Molokai 10 years was incredible. And there's a photo of him his 10th year and he's standing up and claiming it. And like, that was my hero growing up. Like all these watermen, and like, Jamie's like the top pro and paddle guy. And so that was something I want to do for 15 years.
That's so great. I love that. I didn't know that story. Yeah. That's so cool. I love that.
So,
you know what, Jack, I just have to share, like, anybody listening that's a prone paddler, that's done the classic or even just done some smaller stuff, to think about holding that pace, a 6+ pace for 32 miles, it's like one of those things. Like, it would be like me trying to go out and run a 4-minute mile. Like, it just, I don't think I could do 1 mile at the pace that you did. And I always said back in the day when I was training hard and racing hard, like my goal is to be the front of the chase pack. But how I did was always dependent on how many the elite pack. Is it going to be 5 elite or 10 elite? Because I'm either going to be 6th or 16th, depending on, because there's just a gap. To go as hard and as well as you and that group does, a lot of these names you've mentioned, there's something different, whether it's the ability to train, the technique, all of the above. But like, I don't care how fast I went, or how hard I trained. It's just really incredible and just speaks to all the work you did and probably all the history. I mean, you were basically born on prone boards, right?
Yeah.
But really cool. The other rad high point, what else happened that day?
My sister won.
Dude.
And that was even crazier because I paddled a really fast race. Yeah, and I won and broke the record. But for me, it was easy because I got an early lead. And for me personally, like I can hold a lead if I'm ahead of someone. But what she did was a whole nother level of like mental fortitude, because I'm not sure, you probably saw the finish and photos. She was racing Liz Hunter, who's won multiple times, and she's a stud. And they were battling down to the end. And when they crossed the finish line, we didn't know who won, because from the beach angle, it looked like Emily might have nudged it ahead, but you don't know which angle they're looking at, from the pier or from the boat. And I ran over to Gene Rink. I'm like, who won? He's like, we don't know. We're reviewing it. And turned out Emily had her by a board length and a half, just over 12 feet, you know. But and Emily at the R10 was, you know, half mile back. And at Hermosa, she still, I think, was 200 yards back, my dad was saying. So that race is so much more incredible as far as racing and a competitor, and something I never want to be a part of. Because Lockie beat me in 2014 like that. You know, we were 19 seconds apart and we battled side by side the whole race, and he just hammered away from me. And so to see my sister do that and then have it be the same year was just incredible. It was so cool. And she wanted it that year, and she was putting a lot of work in. And so to see for both of us, just, yeah, it was insane.
It's a lot of barks on that trophy that year.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And your dad told me that he was on the boat. It was on Emily's boat. And when he got towards the end, he also couldn't tell from where their vantage point, they couldn't see, was it Liz? Was it Emily?
Yeah.
What a rad story.
It was such an exciting finish. And yeah, so proud of her for that. Because that's that mental toughness not everyone has. And I don't know if I've got that in me. You don't know until you end up at the 32nd mile mark of a 32-mile race and you're neck and neck with someone with 100 yards to go. And, you know, you can say, oh, I'd smoke them, but until you're there and you're that winded and smoked, like it's hard to know how you do. And that'd be challenging for me. So to see her do that was killer. Yeah, we got Lockie and I chaired up the beach, and it was awesome.
What an incredible story.
Yeah.
Did Sam race that year, or was it the next year?
Sam raced that year as well.
So 3 of you. Gemma didn't do it.
Yeah, Gemma has raced. She wasn't in that year though. No. But yeah, 3 of us were racing that year, and
Dad's on the boat. Yeah. 2 names on the trophy. pretty
family
friggin'
affair. Mom and
dude.
Jem are on the beach, and
So great.
yeah.
So great. Good for you. I love that story. You've also done, like, I don't want to just like move on. Like, what a huge accomplishment, getting the record. Someone's going to have to everything is going to have to come together even more for someone to want it bad enough, have everything come together, and to break that. But to break 5 hours, Jack, like, most of our goal is to break 6. If we get 6, we're stoked. So for you to break 5, it's like, for most of us, you would have been an hour, 15, hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, you were hours and hours ahead of the general field.
Yeah.
Hours.
But I've been in those shoes too. I've been in that trying to get 7 hour mark, trying to get that 6, and it's just all relative to, your training and what you're doing out there too. But
amazing.
Yeah.
Super cool. Well, listen, you've also done Molokai quite a bit. Talk about, for anybody that doesn't know, what's the difference between the Catalina Classic and the Molokai to Oahu?
Yeah. Molokai's same distance as 32 miles. And it's from Molokai to Oahu. And it's different in the sense it's a straight ocean crossing. When you hit land, you're pretty much at the finish line. Where Catalina, you hit PV and you got 8 miles along the coast. So especially being like from here, you feel like you're home. You're in home waters. It's familiar to you. Where Molokai, like it feels way further because it's a longer gap. And that race is a totally different race. My dad always says it's like mountain biking versus road biking. Usually that race is, you got big water, big swells, and you're trying to surf your way across the channel. Ideally you're not paddling as much as you're surfing, but it's totally different. Coming from California, you got to put time in a lot of afternoons in the bumpy water and go to Hawaii and go get yourself tuned up for that because it's a whole different style of paddleboarding.
I've had very little success in Molokai, Jack. So I represent and resemble that. You have to be able to train very differently. And it's funny, your dad has always said the mountain bike versus road bike. I always say it's like slalom skiing versus moguls.
Yeah.
Like same sport, completely different application. And for those of you that have really mastered the downwind, because I always say if somebody can downwind on a prone board, you can downwind on anything. Because if you can really connect the dots, the Jamie Mitchell, like I always say, I've been next to people and they're connecting dots that I don't even see.
Yeah.
So to be able to go out there, how many times have you done that race?
Twice relay and maybe 7 or 8 solo.
And what was your best finish?
I won twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. On stock board.
And it's amazing to be able to go flat water here, rough water there, and take them both. So it speaks to your skill.
There's a select few guys who've won both in the same year. I'm not one of them.
Keone Watson.
Very small
Who
group.
else? Keone did
Keone, Tim Gare.
Oh, Tim won them both.
Lockie.
Oh, yeah.
Zeb Walsh. Carter Graves.
Toa?
No.
Not yet?
No.
That's not long. That'll happen soon.
Yeah, not far off.
Oh, that's good. I didn't realize
there's a small group in the same year, which isn't special because just doing those both in the same year is challenging.
Because they're a month apart.
And you finish Molokai and you want to have a couple of beers after, and then the sun's beating on you and you're exhausted and you get home and you don't want to go train. And it's that tricky, like, how many more miles do I do before I start my Catalina taper?
Yeah.
So it's to just be able to recover properly and then get back on the horse and get a little training in and still not be too worked and then taper right. And then for me, always like the years I won Molokai, I came back and I'm like, that was my accomplishment. And so I almost lost that intensity to go race Catalina because I just had a big win, right?
Yeah.
And so to keep that fire stoked and come back and then do it again is huge.
Yeah, I would imagine just from like you said, from a pure training perspective, you have to peak twice a month apart. You've like trained for 4, 5, 6 months, peak, and then you got to do it again. That's a tough ask.
And they're totally different races. Like for me, paddling Molokai, I'm doing a lot of afternoon paddling, a lot of downwinders, which is great, but you're surfing a lot and you're sprinting, and then you come to Catalina and like you don't want that quick twitch sprint chasing bumps muscle. You're low and slow kind of. You're still paddling fast, but you're trying to keep a consistent pace and find your rhythm, and so it's very different. Two different races.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, again, for anybody that's been able to take them both down or be just very successful in both, and there's a ton of people that come from here and go over to it and have gotten very, very good at it. It just didn't ever work out that way for me. But it's just a stunning body of water. It's so completely different and big and blue and hot, and it's really amazing. Currents, there's so many things that come into play.
It's so cool. I got so lucky. Mikey Cote invited me my first year paddling. We did relay. He called me and asked if I wanted to do it with him. So my first time in that channel was with Mikey, and he had won twice. And, he's an incredible bump paddler.
Yeah.
And so doing relay, you get to hop in and paddle, catch some bumps, and you get tired and you hop on the boat and you're looking around and the water's like Gatorade blue, and then you're looking back into the sun at Molokai, which you're leaving, and you're looking forward. And it's a cool way to do it because really I don't think I've looked back in the other races. And so you're so focused on the race, you miss some of that scenery, but it's such a beautiful place to be 15 miles from each of those islands, and there's flying fish, and it's rad. So getting to do it, a relay, and then do solo years. And then the last time I did relay was with my wife, Katie. We did relay
Really?
In 2017.
I
Yeah.
didn't know
And so
that.
that was a killer experience. And then last year I went back and raced and tried the unlimited board. So
You did well last year.
yeah,
right?
second place. Yeah,
Yeah.
stoked to Charlie. He's fast, man.
Charlie's Australian hammer, professional paddler.
Professional Ironman,
Yeah.
I think. And yeah, just a beast.
But to
Took
go
off.
second, I mean, those guys are pros. All they do is train. Like I follow them on social. They're incredible what they do.
Yeah.
And so to be able to go, like to be able to battle with them when you're going back and firefighting and working, and well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Well, listen, it also takes you like this. So all this like race side of it, but going back to your upbringing and dad, like the adventure side. So there's always been things that your dad has put together that leads you in this whole other path we'll get into. But can you talk about, because this was one of my favorite things I've ever done. I've done it a few times. It's the paddle, run, paddle. Kind of it's going to lead us into you do other stuff, paddling, running, endurance, ultra distance stuff, both on land and on the water. Talk about the paddle, run, paddle, because it's just such a cool friggin' thing. But I think that's probably where your running to some degree started, right?
Yeah, totally.
What's the paddle, run, paddle?
Paddle and Paddle, my dad started 2012 maybe. There's a small group of us. It was John Becker, Morgan Hostery, myself. I'm trying to remember who was all there. There's a small group. And we paddled from PV to Catalina, and then on Friday. And then we ran the Catalina Marathon, the sanctioned race, from Isthmus to Avalon the next day. Took a bus back to the Isthmus that afternoon, and then Sunday morning woke up and paddled back to
So
PV.
great.
Yeah, and it kind of was one of those, like, let's try this once. And it's in March, which, is when the marathon is, but it's a bad time to try to plan an open ocean crossing.
It's early season. Nobody's really on prone boards at that
And then
point,
you get
right?
springtime, you get, probably
the
most
wind.
of our winter storms and big wind events. So we scored great weather, and it was awesome. Like, that was pretty cool. Like, what a cool experience. And then the next year we want to do it again, and there was a couple more people who heard, and we had a bigger group, and RA got involved, and we started doing it to kind of raise awareness for his daughter Callie, and
Callie's Cause,
started
right?
calling it Callie's Cause, and we ended up doing it 7 or 8 years, which is one year we had over 100 people doing it.
I was one of them.
Yeah. It was incredible. It was such a cool community because everyone was out there doing it for this great cause, and we were raising money and awareness for Callie's Cause and getting all these rad people involved, and we're all out there, in March, paddling and running and paddling and just doing a rad event.
So fun.
Yeah.
I can tell you when I first heard about it, I was like, I want in. It was too late that year. The next year, or one of those years, I reached out to Joe, to your dad, and he goes, oh, sorry, Shu, I don't, da-da-da. And then he gives me the call up like 2 days before and he goes, hey, come on up. And I was like, I haven't been on the board.
Yeah.
I haven't been running. So like so many, I got on the board and I went up there and I did it. And that, by far my favorite thing. I've run that marathon a bunch of times now because it's the absolute best. But I love it. Everything about it speaks about your dad. What do you, at the midway stop, what does your dad pull out of the boat for everybody?
Fried chicken.
Every time. It's so,
I don't even know how that started one year, but yeah, 1 year, 15 miles in or 10 miles in, fried chicken comes out, everyone's passing around buckets.
it's so
But that's the cool thing about that event, whatever it was, and we don't do it anymore. It just got too big and stressful because it was not a real event and the liability and everything. But there are people who would say, oh, I'm not a paddler. I'm going to come do it. I'll just do the run part. And then they end up hopping on a board and relaying it with someone. Or people who are not runners at all, like myself. There were so many of us who were not runners and were like, oh, I'll just limp across.
Totally.
Or people who showed up with no shoes and borrowed shoes and ended up running because they got talked into it over a couple beers Friday night. So it just got people out of their comfort zones. It's all these friends came together and just like with paddling, I have so many friends who have met through the paddle and paddle or just paddling in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, what a cool event my dad put together.
So cool. I'm so grateful I got to do it before it kind of sunsetted. Certain things about it were just so magic. But one year I met this girl named Katie who you guys were just starting to date. And we were all sharing like one of those little huts over there. And look at you guys now. You have a little Lockie out here, and dude, it's really. But I mean, I think you guys were just starting to date on that one. I think that was the third one I did with you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, just it's really magic. But I remember the first time I was doing it. You're out there, you're cruising, and I would just paddle up to everybody. Who are you? Who are you? And I'm like, that's where I met DJ, and I met Sarah Schultingkranz, like all these people that are still good friends of mine, but I didn't know any of them. You know,
totally. Yeah.
And it's just again, back to the community, right? And then we ran the marathon with people I didn't know, I think I walked it with your dad that year, and then the next year I ran it. But that was magic.
Yeah,
so neat. Well, listen, you guys go on. Not only that, you've done that marathon a bunch of times. Your dad has done it. You look at your dad and you're like, he doesn't look like a runner. And Charlie, back in the day that worked with your dad for so long, they would do the 50.
Yeah.
And then you started doing the 50. So talk about the first time you went from running the marathon to doing the 50 miler.
Yeah, I did the marathon a couple times with the Paddle and Paddle, and then my dad had done the 50, I think twice. And then I think one year he talked Joel Pepper and Steve Schlenz into it. And I'm like, well, if they're gonna go, like, I could probably do it. You know, I've done the marathon, and it's a classic Joe Bark talking someone into something that they had no interest in doing, and then, you know, a couple weeks later, you're in Catalina 30 miles into a 50-mile race, which is just
great.
Yeah. And you know, Joel and Schlenz, I mean, they're both fit guys, but they weren't runners really at the time. But yeah, my dad talked to a lot of people into doing that 50 miler, and I think we went back into that maybe 6 or 7 times. And I loved it because, you know, I started doing what my dad did and talk buddies into it. And you're just getting fun people out there and doing something super, super hard. And it just kind of goes to all the endurance stuff my dad did when he was younger and kind of raised me up doing, was like, it's that type 2 fun, and you're choosing to do it. You're choosing to be there. And so it's like, well, I put myself in this position, so I got to finish it. And just that kind of mindset kind of gets you through a lot of it.
It's so fun. That's one I miss. I never did it, and now I can't.
Yeah.
But man, that's one, because that's maybe the part of that, like the extra magic thing that your dad has is he makes all this stuff that's super daunting and hard super fun. So you're like, oh, I want to, not only is it like, I'm not scared, like I can't wait to go, I want to go do that. I want to go do the 50.
He somehow describes a 50-mile run through all the hills of Catalina as like a mellow, like hang with friends.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah. Yep. That's a skill that, I mean, that is a secret sauce for sure.
Yeah.
But you've gone on to do that, and you've done, so let's get into the ultra type stuff. I know you still do a bunch of running, like you and Tony will go do stuff. What have you done? And I don't know the answer to this one. Have you done a bunch of other running, other like 50-mile type distance or anything other than what you did on Catalina?
No, nothing like that. I haven't done any big races.
No Moab 240s or anything like that?
No, I got no interest in that.
Me either.
Yeah, my buddy White and I, we went to Big Sur and tried to run 100 miles.
Oh, you did?
And only made it 77.
Only?
Yeah. We got, it was a long story and it's crazy, but we got turned around. There was the landslide that we kind of ran into. And then our chase car was trying to meet us on the other side of that. We were going to climb over the landslide, which was bigger than expected. So we decided it was safer to not climb over that in the dark.
Probably.
So we turned around, but with no cell service, our buddies are waiting down in slow, and we're halfway through Big Sur turning back around. And so we didn't have food or water in the middle of the night for like 8 hours while they figured out that we weren't dead and drove around to meet us. And it was just one of those radical, like, what are we doing here? How do we end up here? You know, Big Sur, 2 a.m, 70 miles in, sleep for 10 minutes and get back up. Like, hey, let's just keep walking. You know, we got to get back up there. And then, yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Jack. That's rad. In the middle of that, sleeping for 10 minutes, going the wrong way, no food, no water, no cell service. I think I know the answer. Are you freaking? Are you like frothing? Are you like, fuck, this is rad, this is scary, this sucks? Is it type 3 fun yet? Or is it still type 2?
Yeah.
Like, where is it on the spectrum for you when you're doing this kind of hard stuff and it goes sideways?
Yeah, that I was freaking for my buddies because I was like, I feel bad that we got 2 guys in my van down the south end of Big Sur waiting for us and we're not showing up. We're walking north now because there's no way we're getting through there, right? So I was kind of worried, like, how long are they going to wait for us before they decide either come and look for us or come around and assume that what happened. But yeah, I mean, everything, the long distance stuff, there's always gonna be stuff that goes wrong. And, you know, you hear a lot of the ultra runners talk about it, and I'm not doing anything their level at all, but it's the problem solving. And like, you got your body to take care of and you got all these little cramps or hunger or thirst, whatever, and you're dealing with, and you're just kind of figuring it out. And it keeps it intriguing, which I think is the draw, you know, that keeps you coming back for these adventures.
Well, I think that's an understatement because you've come back for a bunch. I mean, let's talk about the paddling stuff. You've done some incredible stuff, different parts of the world, some right here. Talk about what you've done on the ultra paddling side.
Yeah, well, the first big one that I got into was Zeb Walsh. We raced Molokai together one year. I didn't really know him too well. We finished the race, and then he called me up in like December, and he lives in Melbourne. And so you have Tasmania, which is the south of them, and he had wanted to, for a long time, paddle to Tasmania. And he called me up kind of out of the blue and was like, hey, do you have any interest in doing this with me and Brad Gall? And, Brad Gall is another legend, Molokai racer, and Zeb too. I'm like, these rad dudes older than me are like, hey, you want to come to Australia and paddle to Tasmania? And it's about 170 miles. There's islands dotted through the whole channel. Through the Bass Strait. And so I ended up going down there, and that was my big first eye-opening experience to this adventure paddle, and it was the coolest experience ever. We paddled 7 days in a row. We had one day, we took 2 days off because of weather, but pretty much back-to-back 30 milers for 7 days. And, gnarly weather, cold wind. We had a day of downwind, but it was just that gnarly, every day you're waking up after doing Molokai pretty much, and you're like, we're doing it again today. And then you're falling asleep on the boat, and the next day waking up doing it again. And that was just such a cool adventure to be down there with those guys, kind of bringing me under their wing as a younger kid. And that was kind of the first big adventure that got me all fired up on it.
So you do this multi-day thing, and you're like, ooh, I like that. I want to keep doing them. Because I think a lot of us, I think of myself running marathons or doing the classic, and I'm like, that was a hard day. That was rad, but I don't want to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, we're going to do it tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. Did your body hold up well? Did your mind hold up well through all that?
Yeah. I mean, we all had a bad day or two, and your body, you're getting just totally rashed because we were paddling in wetsuits because it was cold down there.
Right.
So you're paddling day after day in wetsuits, and no amount of body glide will, suffice for that. But the cool thing about the adventure paddling, which is it's hard and it's long, but you're doing it with people. So it's not quite a team sport, but you're not racing someone. You're bouncing ideas and how you're feeling off your buddies, and we're paddling together, and you draft a bit. But it's like the paddle and paddle. You start talking to someone, and all of a sudden you realize you're 20 miles into something because you're enjoying it a little more than just it's like training paddling. You get to enjoy it. So as hard as it is, there's that camaraderie to it, which you don't totally get in paddling in the racing side because you're always racing everyone. But you do in the training and everything. So, and just the sense of adventure, the accomplishment I feel like is different when you're finishing something like that after 7 days where you're going to bed. You're like, I might just not paddle the town tomorrow. I'm going to hold these guys back, which I was thinking every night.
Right.
And then you wake up and you're like, oh, we got to get up and do it. And then so that accomplishment at the end of that week was just this total high.
Well, I would imagine after all of these things, and there's more that we'll talk about, is there anything you can't do? How much of it is mind over matter? It seems like everything you've done, in 2024, I will put myself in the hospital. I'm gonna sprint the last 10 miles. I am gonna get up tomorrow and keep paddling in the Bass Strait, and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Where did that sense of determination? Is it determination or is it excitement? What gets you through it?
Probably, I mean, if you want to go back, my mom and dad just giving us that no quit attitude. I feel like they instilled that in us. I wanted to quit junior lifeguard so I could just surf with my friends in the summer. They're like, no, we signed you up. You're doing this. It's good for you. And I think just good parenting shaped me to just commit to what I'm doing and see it through. But and then in terms of being in the water and doing it, I don't know. I definitely, the more I've done, you see that, the mind over matter is huge, and you can do way more than you're capable of when you get out there. But having the support crew, having the people you're doing it with is huge. Having the support guys on the boat or whoever's crewing you, all of it just coming together and realizing, I think, I always say, you choose to put yourself there. No one's forcing you to. Yeah. So now you're I chose to be here. I wanted this, and I'm going to be happy I did it when it's over, but right now you're really not wanting it.
Yeah, sounds like type 2.5 fun.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Classic. So you do that. Incredible. What do you guys do next? What do you do next?
Next, Morgan Hostry invited me to Canada.
We love Morgan. She's the one that taught me about type 1, type 2, type 3 fun.
Yeah, she took me to Canada and to Tahiti, and some type 2 fun in both those places. We went to Canada, with Olympian Simon Whitfield from up there. He is an Olympic triathlete, and he was doing a big paddle with Men's Health from mainland to Vancouver Island across the Georgia Strait. It was 3 days, 30 miles a day, about 90 miles. And that was, one of those, it was less than the Bass Strait, but still, long days in the water, paddling wetsuits, it's cold. And the currents up there are gnarly too. So there's some spots where you're paddling, like there's whirlpools and stuff. But
really?
Morgan, myself, Allison Riddle, George Plasek, Rock Fry, we went up there, and that was a killer trip because it was just something so different. We're up in Canada, there's bald eagles everywhere. And that was just another cool adventure just to be involved in,
And a good crew.
Yeah, great crew.
I mean, Rock and George, like hammer San Diego-based paddlers.
Yeah.
Morgan, ride anything, dive anything.
Yeah.
So a good group of people. That, I mean, again, back to the community. It who you surround yourself with. Like, if you're going to do stuff like that, you got to be with people that have the right outlook. They have to have the tenacity as well. They've got to be cool. Like, if you have people out there bitching and whining, everybody's going to be in a hard spot, right?
Yeah, and that's, I think, how my dad was so successful with talking to people and doing this hard stuff. Like, Morgan calls me up and she's like, hey, George, Rock, and I were going to Canada. I'm like, I don't care what you say we're doing. I want to do it because I want to go hang out with these people. And these are the friends, like I said, these are the people the older people than me who I feel like I was so influenced by because we're doing these, they're great people, first of all, and then we're doing these killer, healthy activities outside that are just challenging, and you just grow so much from those. So when they're calling you up, I don't really care what we're doing. Like, yeah, sign me up.
So
how do I get involved?
Rad.
And so from Canada, the next year, she calls me and we go to Tahiti. Stefan Lambert was putting on these Iron Mana events. I'm not sure if you heard about those. And
she told me about one that she did there that was gnarly.
yeah, they were all, I only did one. She went down there and did a bunch of them, but he was putting on these Iron Mana events, and they were mostly local Tahitians. There wasn't a big influx of people coming from out of the country.
But this was like the multi-sport. Like, you're doing prone, outrigger, swim, and you don't know what you're going to do until they tell you that day. Is that right?
Yeah. And then he was doing these events, and then when stand-up was big, he would sponsor the top Tahitians he'd pay their way to go to the Battle of Paddle and to these big events. And so it was like a way for these guys to build some training and get to go out of Tahiti and race. But she got me involved there, and she's like, hey, I can't really tell you what we're doing because I don't even know. But he's putting on these events. We're going to be paddling. We're going to be outriggering, stand-up, swimming. I'm like, well, I don't really do any of those besides paddling, but sure, I want to go to Tahiti. So we fly down there. George, Rock, Allison, we all went again, kind of same crew. And I just remember, like, we get there, and the first day, go outrigger paddling with this crew of all these probably world-class Tahitian outrigger paddlers. And then the next day we go surf this reef pass, and then the event starts, and the first event is a 25 or so mile paddle from one island to Moorea, where all the next events are going to be held. And Stefan's like, hey, Jack, the whole point of these events is to just do hard, challenging things. I know you're a great prone paddler. You're going to go stand up tomorrow. I don't do a lot of stand up, and at the time I wasn't really either. And he's like, I got a board for you, and I'm gonna go prone, and you're gonna stand up. We'll trade boards. I'm like, okay, see how it goes, right? That's why I'm here. And I paddled 25 miles on a stand up, most of them on my belly or on my knees, because open ocean channel crossing, no escort boat, just the race starts and the 30, 40 of us just kind of go. And Allison and Rock and George and Morgan, they were paddling way more stand up than I would at the time. So they're gone, and I'm like mid-channel between Tahiti and Moorea. There's whales, and I'm just like trying to see where I'm going, and I'm just like, I got to get across this thing. People are gonna be worried about where I'm at. So put the paddle between my legs, and I'm prone paddling this stand-up board,
wide thing,
just trying to catch runners. But like, that was this whole idea behind these events that he was putting on. And then we get there, and we get in. I think we're gonna like have a beer and just relax by the pool, and then we're doing these pool swim races, and I'm like, just going right into that from this paddle. And then the next morning we do a 5 mile swim. It's like 20 laps. And so we're running through these like over water bungalows where all these people are staying, and they jump off the dock and swim through the lagoon, which is the most incredible swimming ever. Climb a ladder and run back along. And it's like every 3 days, the full 3 days we're there, every like 2 events a day was just so different, and it was incredible. But it was just totally that. And that one was crazy because I didn't know what we were doing when we were going down there. Yeah. Morgan's like, we'll see what he has planned.
That's what she told me.
And every event was different.
Sounds amazing and gnarly.
Yeah,
But good for you to be able to like throw down, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really exciting. I when you're telling these stories, I think about like, what would I do? I'm not sure.
Well, that was my thought process when he told me I was going to stand up. I was like thinking, but there's no way out. Like they brought us all down here and welcomed us and said, hey, this is what we're doing. And you're like, well, I guess I just have to do it. And so there was really no choice. And then, but you look around and everyone else is doing it and excelling, especially all these local Tahitians and, Morgan and George, you throw them anything, they're going to do great. But these are just such world-class athletes. And I'm just trying to keep up because I'm just a one-off prone paddleboard guy. I don't stand up. I don't outrigger. So for me, I'm just like, I just want to try to keep up with these guys.
Well, it sounds like it goes back to, you said, like my parents taught us like the never quit. And you like to do hard things. So you did both.
Yeah.
Right? You had to do both.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I didn't know you did all that. So it's fun to learn that there's more and more things. What I do know is you did the 100-mile paddle just a couple of years ago. You did the Catalina lap and back. Talk about real quickly about some of the California-based ones that you've done, because they're monsters, but they're rad.
Yeah. I mean, the Catalina around and back, Lockwood Holmes and I, and Max First and Robert Pruk and I actually have all done Catalina back in a day. Like it's 45 or so miles. And so I want to do something else, but really.
Hold on. Just paddle to Catalina, get lunch, and paddle back.
Yeah.
45 miles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Training miles.
Paddle.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
But really, I mean, this idea came, I wanted to try to do something that I could get my friends out here. So I was like, I want to hang out with Lockie and Zeb. So how can I make it worth their time to fly out from Australia? And so I approached them with this idea to paddle to Catalina around it and back. I'm like, it'd be worth your time, 70 miles, So that was more just the whole paddle community, trying to hang out with your friends. And so Zeb was able to make it work with, Patagonia. He was working with them. He's, I can make it a business trip and do some work at the office. Lockie flew out. And yeah, that was a killer paddle because we were also kind of prototyping the Greyhounds, which is the Surf Tech 14-foot board. And so we made these 4 Greyhounds. Lockwood Holmes joined, and we paddled from PV to the east end of Catalina, around, paddled north, and then back from the west end back to PV. And it ended up being 77 miles.
Over how much time?
I think 19 and a half hours.
So you had some nighttime paddling there.
We actually started at night, and it was in 2021, I think, when there was that really bizarre hurricane that came, big south swell and a hurricane. And we actually started at 9 at night, and we pretty much, this whole like weather event pulled all this wind off the coast. And so we pretty much downwinded all night, looking down a full moon for 30 miles to Avalon. Pretty much. It was bizarre. We were catching runners and paddling straight downwind with the moon like lighting the whole way up, the whole way across.
Insane.
And then we get to the east end, and it felt super sharky. The moon dropped down. It's pitch black. You can hear the seals on, the rookery over there. And it felt super sharky. And I felt bad because I planned this whole thing out. I told the guys, I'm like, hey, we're going to stop at sunrise and have burritos and coffee. And they're like, when's sunrise? I'm like, around 6 o'clock. And it ended up being not the right sunrise time. So Zeb and Lockie, like, when are we eating food and having coffee? And I'm like, at sunrise. They're like, well, it's 6 o'clock now and it's pitch black still. So I felt all this pressure. So we get to the backside and we go into a beach and the sun's kind of coming up. We make some coffee in the jet boil. And then we get back on the boards and paddle up the backside and then turn the west end. And a little wind was kind of coming. And so we end up side chop paddling it all the way back to PV. But that one was gnarly because Zeb's got a bad rib from all his years racing, surf racing. And he was starting to slow down a bit. And we're like, dude, you good? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Then about 5 miles off PV, he's like in pain. You know that like you almost watching a grown man cry and you're like, dude, like what's up? Like, are you all right? Yeah. He's like, my ribs popped out. And he like pulls up his rash guard and you can see this like rib protruding out.
Not great for prone paddling.
Not great for prone paddling because he can't lay on it. And on his knees, it's like getting compressed. And he pretty much paddled from the west end the whole way back to PV, 20 miles or so with like this rib protruding out of his chest.
He's tougher than I.
But just gnarly, But like it just, goes back to that whole like you're hanging with your buddies. Like you're not going to hop on the boat and be done. Like you're there for a reason. So
amazing.
Yeah.
At the same time, you kind of lost me at smelled like sharks and it was pitch black. But I mean, listen, you know the deal. People are always like, how sharky? Or do you see sharks? I'm like, I've paddled a zillion miles out there. I've never seen one that can hurt me.
Yeah.
Ever. Now, I'm sure they've seen me, but I've never seen them.
Exactly.
And that's okay. I'm good with that. And then there's people that swim it a lot.
Yeah.
Swim the whole thing. Like that's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
In my
Well,
book.
then everything I'm talking about, it doesn't sound so cool when you're like, yeah, someone swims this every summer. You know, there's the whole ocean swimming community, which is a whole nother level. Which
Hey, but
I like being on a board.
I like being on board. I like to be able to talk to people. I don't want to see anything moving around under me. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Again, you say all these things super nonchalant. Oh, we did 77. We paddled 2 there, around the whole island and back. Like, I think of, again, like I said before, like the classic for most of us is like the peak of our ability. Like I got 32 miles in, took me 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever it is. I'm cooked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're like, okay, that's our first leg of this 8-day thing. Or this is our, you know, like we have another Catalina Classic to do to get home.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went and did it again. You did this 100-miler. What was that one?
That was just another idea. Just
I love ideas.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, just my dad's crazy ideas. It just instilled in me now.
These are your ideas. You don't get to blame him.
That same mindset, I guess.
Right.
So, but I was thinking, I'm like, well, ideally I would like to run 100 miles one day. And I'm like, I wonder if that's even possible paddling, because we did the 77. So I was just trying to figure out what 100 would look like. And I thought maybe, you know, Malibu to now just crazy to think about. I'm like, oh, maybe north of Malibu or like maybe Oxnard. I drew it on the map and it was like north Santa Barbara. I'm like, well, that's way further than I thought. So I look into it and thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, we should try it. So talked Max first into joining us. He ended up paddling about half it with us. And he told me before, he's like, I'm not training. I want to join you for the adventure, but I'm not doing the whole thing. So he already had his out before, which is probably smarter. And then Lockwood Holmes paddled the first half with us, and then he drove the boat the rest of the way with my brother and cousin. But I got my buddy Wyatt Kircher, who's an insane swimmer, but not really a paddler. And it was pretty much his first time paddling an unlimited board. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it with you. And he ran the 70-miler in Big Sur with me.
I like him. I don't know him, but I like him already.
So we get up to Santa Barbara, we go to Campus Point, and we hop off the boat, and we just start paddling down. I think we start 4 in the afternoon in the summer. And we paddle till the dark, have some food, and just paddle all night. And that one, nothing really crazy happened. It was just one of those weird ones. The night was a blur. And Wyatt and I don't think we talked to each other for 6 hours. We were just like next to each other, but we were both like, we got to that point, that 12-hour mark, where we're just in our own zone and it's dark. Totally. So we're like, hey, I see you there. And we're just doing our thing, go back to the boat, get some nutrition, keep paddling. And that was another one that's dark and sharky. We were off like Point Wanimi. It just felt sharky up there.
Yeah.
But then the sun came up off, Malibu, and it was like, whoa, like we're home, We're in the South Bay, pretty much, the Santa Monica Bay. And we ended up doing that paddle in 23 and a half hours.
And that's all. What was your goal for that one?
The goal was to see if it was possible.
100 miles, see if it was possible.
Yeah, and that's why we set that 100-mile mark, finish at home in our home waters. We finished just off Manhattan Beach. But we didn't have a time frame. I just wanted to see, hey, let's start and see where we're at when the sun comes up, see what our distance looks like, and then see if we want to keep going. And the sun came up, totally rejuvenating. It's like, kind of feel fresh again. We're like, hey, I think we can get it. Let's just keep going.
Dude.
And then just kind of start chipping away at those miles.
Proof of concept approved. Yeah. Again.
Yeah.
So rad. It's so cool. Do you have more thoughts out there of other creative ones?
The Hawaii paddle was one.
Talk about that one real quick.
Yeah. That was one I thought about.
What was that one going to be?
That was going to be try to paddle around Oahu in one go. 120 miles, 4 sides of the island though, which we learned, which I knew before, but we learned firsthand was,
some of it's going to be upwind.
Some of it's going to be upwind. Some's going to be sidewind. And, we did our due diligence though. We reached out, we had Sean Monahan as our escort boat driver, reached out to, Brad Gall, Cotes. We had some great Rosh Lows. We had some great people helping us with the forecasting and everything. And just hard with my work schedule and the Lockheed's work schedule, getting two professionals to have like a time with a weather window.
From Australia and from California, meet in the middle.
To both get there. So we shipped the boards over there. We had our game plan. And then Sean, he was newly promoted fire captain. And so trying to work 3 schedules in, and my brother was on the boat. So we needed Sam there to help Sean with driving everything. And so it was just totally all the pieces to get them together. I felt like it was such an accomplishment. We finally had it together. And then we get there and we're like, okay, like we got a week and we're looking at the best weather window. And we had a great window. It looked from the week out. And then the next day, like a little wind popped up. We're like, oh, it's 5 to 10. We're good. Tides were looking great because we kind of based our whole weather window on tides because Keone, growing up on the west side, he was like, hey, this is what you got to look for as far as tides. So wind is going to be a factor, but that's more going to be like, hey, the wind's really shitty, we're getting beat up. But if you're fighting wind versus fighting tide, you'd rather fight wind because the tide's pulling you really.
Yep.
And Keone helped Dallas in on all that, and Mark Rochlow. But by the time the day came and we were there and we started, the wind had picked up a little bit, but it was kind of like we're all excited. We're going anyways. We're gonna give it a try because we're all here.
I think I saw some footage.
Yeah.
It was snotty.
It was gnarly.
How far did you guys make it? Or what'd you get? What happened?
We made it. So my buddy Davey came out with us as well, and Toad joined us for the first 15. So we made it from Hawaii Kai, around China Wall, around Makapu down to.
It's the reverse of what you do during the Molokai.
Exactly. But we were riding the tide out, which was helpful.
But
we ended up punching into I think the buoys. Sean was looking 11 feet at 9 seconds.
I'll have to get that video and share it if I can, because you were going uphill, upwind, getting slapped.
Yeah, I feel like we were either launching off the back of whitecaps or duck diving whitecaps. Like you dropped down, there was no room in the trough to get back up, and you were just poking through these waves. It's
straight in the face is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Every single time.
And ideally, we were going to turn Makapu and then have somewhat of a side downwinder up the whole east side based on what the wind was doing. But when we turned Makapu, the storm, this is that storm that brought all those devastating rains and wind.
The Kona lows? Is that what they're calling them?
Yeah, we ended up leaving Hawaii the day or two before those big rains came in. So I think this was this whole weather window, the front of it, that kind of skewed it all up a bit. But yeah, we ended up turning Makapu, hoping for some relief. And it was just like, Sean was like, this is what we expected. And, you got Sean Monahan, who's escorted how many times across that channel, between prone paddleboards and outriggers and everything. So we did what we could, and we ended up having a killer, 25-mile paddle still. We got to go paddle through a big sea cave, and then we're like, hey, I think we all kind of had a talk, and none of us wanted to throw in the towel, but we all kind of were like, hey, we're not making it around this island right now. That was a totally humbling, the ocean was going to humble you, but to finally have it be like, hey, you guys are done. You're stopping here. Yeah. It was like, all right.
It was talking to you.
Well, that was it.
Listen, I had this conversation. Lifeguard Chief Kalani Vieira on Kauai is getting ready to do a circumnavigation on OC1 around Kauai.
Okay.
And I was talking about it, and I'm like, he's doing the reverse. He's doing the same thing. He's doing the reverse Nepali coast run. Well, that's usually where we go downwind.
Yeah.
He's going backwards. I'm like, dude, that's going to be so some of it's going to be upwind, some is going to be down. You have to pick your poison. And so
it's
there's
an
no
island,
other way, right? It's an island.
Especially out in the middle of the Pacific. You have so much currents and water and wind. Going around Catalina, there's not a ton of those factors. Yeah. But out there, it's just amazing. You're going to be eating it one way or the other.
For sure. Well, hey, hats off to you guys for even trying and thinking about it and going after it. Listen, I'm sure we could rabbit hole way more because I love that stuff. Let's pivot a bit. You've been a board builder for a long time, and I think Emily does a lot of boards. Your dad, I was thinking about like how many prone boards has your dad made? How many surfboards as under the Bark brand? How many boards are out there? Any idea?
No clue.
Tens of thousands. Between the Surf Tech branded ones, the hand-shaped ones, the
you're throwing Surf Techs too. I couldn't even tell you. Yeah.
I've got a bunch of them in my garage alone. How's the shaping game been for you? Just like your dad, you've been shaping for a long time now. Let me ask you this. When you won the Classic in 2024 and set the record, was that on a board that you shaped?
Yeah, I hand finished that board, but all our boards now are coming off
the
machine and off all these tweaks my dad's done. So, and all the boards I shape, even the surfboards, I made some tweaks on some of my own little models, but everything I'm doing is off my dad. I don't even call myself really a shaper because I'm hand finishing these boards, but I didn't take the time when I was younger to learn the hand shaping from start to finish as much as I should have, but it's not something I'm super interested in. I love making the paddle boards. I love tweaking those, and my dad and I right now we're trying to make a new commander for Surf Tech, but it's hard because that board is such an amazing board, and my dad's done such a good job. That's a 40-year-old design that you look at what he's shaped 40 years ago and how it's tweaked and the evolution of it to get to that point. So many hours. So I love shaping for that. Help my dad and making these fast boards, and surfboards is just kind of more a side project for me. But for my dad, you look at what he's shaping big wave guns for world class big wave riders. His longboards are, bar none, incredible nose riding longboards. And then you got the paddle boards. So I just like to, it's a great way for me to go down there and hang with him and help the brand.
Rad. Well, listen, anybody that's had a chance to hang out at the Bark shop, like that's just being able to go hang out there and watch the magic happen and see it be done. And again, your family's always so like, they just envelop everybody when you come in there and hang. And we all just want to nerd out on boards and talk to Joe. Like, it's so fun. I've been blessed to have quite a few. I don't know if my wife will let me put any more in the ground. I don't know if there's room for any more right now.
Yeah.
And firefighting right now, you're doing all this training and all this stuff with a career, with a family, and now with Lockie, baby Lockie.
Yeah.
Talk real quickly about firefighting. Like, has it turned out to be, like, you grew up watching it with your dad. Like, is it turned out to be something that you're super, like, are you happy with the choice you made?
Yeah, I love it. It's a great career. And I always knew it was when I was younger. It wasn't something that interested me. I think because just paddling and surfing and being a kid, you're like, I don't even want to think about a career, right? But yeah, I work with a great crew right now, and I love going to work. You know, like Katie's like, "Yo, fired up." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going back to work tomorrow. I get to hang with the boys."
Where are you? Where are you
I work
based?
in Fire Station 31 with LA County and Paramount. So we cover Paramount and a portion of Compton. But yeah, it's a great time. And the career, you know, you get to give back, you get to serve a community. That's like lifeguarding. I love that aspect of it. You feel like you could make a difference. But yeah, it's a great job, and I'm super thankful for, you know, the process to get there took me almost 6 years applying to over 40 departments. You know, working all the odd jobs, lifeguarding, harbor patrol, working on the ambulance and everything, construction. So the long road to get there was challenging, but, you know, it pays off in the end. And yeah, stoked with the career.
Well, I mean, you've been surrounded by, I think, of all the people that we've raced with or paddled with over the years, so many lifeguards, so many firefighters, so many first responders in different capacities. And again, with your dad and just your background, like it surprised me it took that long, but I know it's a super impacted. It's challenging to get in there no matter who you know, but kudos to you and thanks for your service.
Yeah.
Super, super rad. So let's talk real quickly about the family. Mm-hmm. So we've shared that there's 2 Lockies in your life. Yeah. One's an Australian dude and one's a California girl.
Yeah.
Just recent, you and Katie. How's parenting? How's that going?
It's challenging. Yeah.
Right? It's a new one.
Well, a whole new respect for my mom raising 4 of us. Just like, you know, getting us all to the beach to watch my dad finish. I mean, incredible. So yeah, I think everyone says you get new respect for your parents when you become a parent. But yeah, Lockie's 3 weeks old, and just to see, you know, my wife Katie is just such a trooper. I mean, going back though, Katie won Catalina before I did.
You know what?
In 2017. So she's always been just leading our family in all the accomplishments. And so to see her give birth to our daughter now, and just doing that with her has been incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a good one there. And we were talking offline because I was thinking about this because I didn't know when Lockie was born, but I was like doing the math backwards because both you and Katie paddled the Bend Did Go with us last September. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wonder if she was pregnant.
Yeah. So Lockie's already got a couple of channel crossings under her belt.
All right. We have future world champion right there. She's 3 weeks old, but we know where this is going. Super fun. Future-wise, do you see yourself with Katie, with Lockie, being able to, like, are you going to follow the same footsteps that you grew up in with the way you grew up in the Bark household?
I would love to. Yeah. I mean, I think it was just such a blessed upbringing to be able to be on the water, you know, pretty much beach all the time. And so that's the goal. You know, Katie's so active and wants to, you know, she's just itching to get back in the pool and start ocean swimming again. And so our goal is to be able to provide that life that my parents and her parents provided for us when we were kids. And yeah, that's the goal. You know, keep praying for that every day.
Hallelujah. Well, I have no doubt. Again, I'm a big believer in osmosis, and like what we see in our parents and how we grow up is probably what leaves the biggest mark. Mm-hmm. And everything we've talked about today is like I said, that apple bounced off every branch on the way down of the Amy and Joe Bark tree for you guys. And I have no doubt that you and Katie and little Lockie aren't going to be in the same boat, which is super rad. How do you juggle it all? Do you juggle?
Yeah.
How do you make it all work to be able to compete or train at that level, work at that level, you know, be a spouse, now be a dad and everything else? Like, is it work? Is it just fun? I mean, again, your dad did it probably as well as anybody could.
Yeah. Well, I look at my dad and even more, you know, right now, I'm not in the shop as much helping him. But you know, he was doing it so well when he was raising us. But yeah, I think just, you know, using the support system we got, you know, obviously Katie's incredible as a mom and as a spouse. So just being able to rely on her when needed. And we got our families and our support system and even my siblings and everyone. So that's huge. But yeah, it's just, I feel blessed to be able to go paddling and training all the time and then have the job that I do where I can stay fit there and have a good group of support guys. You know, like the year I was training, they were all supporting me, paddling before work, watching the live stream with, you know, of the race. And then just being able to come home. Like this morning, I wasn't going to paddle, you know, a long night with the baby. And Katie's like, go paddle before we go down Newport. And she's like, she's getting me out there. So it's just, I think us supporting each other has been huge. You know, that's the biggest part of it for sure.
It's a team sport for sure, right?
100%.
It takes a village.
Yeah.
And again, your the Bark family, all generations, the paddling community, firefighter, like you've got some good support in your world, which sounds like it'll keep you going. Yeah. So on that front, anything on the horizon? Are you going Molokai this year? You going Catalina? You going some adventure?
Yeah, no Molokai, no adventures really on the baby's the adventure right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, this will be my 15th year for Catalina. So the goal is just to get across the channel. And I've been training a bit, but you definitely slowed down a little bit now with Lockie arriving. But
hold on, slow for you is fast for everybody else. We all know how this works. So that's sandbagging. But
yeah.
No, dude, it's rad. I can't wait to see where this goes. And again, you started so early, and I know you haven't gotten it every year, but 15 at 32, like your dad said, you could have as many as you want if you so choose to, which is pretty rad.
Yeah.
Killer.
Yeah, it's
Jack,
been great.
This is so cool. I really appreciate you sharing the story. It's been so fun to be like fly on the wall watching this whole thing from that little kid on your dad's boat or on your boat and to what you've done and now having a kid of your own. It's really cool to watch how this has all gone for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a great journey.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks for the eggs. Thanks for my new Bark family farm shirt. And keep up all the good work and keep surprising us with cool things.
Yeah, thank you. Will do.
Rad.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jack.